What's going on, Mo? Oh man, come on, camera. There we go. X-Men 97 fam, how's it going? Although, no more X-Men 97. We can still talk about it though. But we're chatting X-Men Evolution, Season 1, Episodes 1 through 5 today. If you've never seen it, totally okay. If you saw it a long time ago, also okay. If you just recently rewatched, also totally okay. If you're here, want to talk about something specific regarding the show or something else, just put it in the chat. This is always way open. Polly, how are you? I knew you were going to be here. Well, I was at least hoping you were going to be. And here we are. All right. We'll just wait like another 30 seconds, let people make their commute to the live stream, and then we'll get started. How's everyone doing? It's actually nice here. Waiting for my review of the first 5 episodes. I took all my notes. DMV. I'm glad you made it. I rewatched the first 5 episodes just so I could have my notes, because I didn't take notes the first time, just mental notes of things that I thought of. All right, where are we? All right, notes. First of all, how 2000s is the intro. So 2000s. So 2000s. Shout out to anyone that's also day drinking because they're off work today. Are you off today, Mo? I know you worked all holiday weekend. So are you off today? But going back to like the nice Mo, going back to the theme song and then just like the end, the X-Men Evolution, like logo and like that smoky blue background. I'm day drinking water. That's good, Polly. That's good. I grabbed this from the fridge at the gym. I'm not a big fan of grapefruit, but I feel like I just need something with some flavor. The theme song is just so 2000s. Definitely like takes me. That stinks. Bit rate is slow. All right, let's try this. It's not the best because I'm at the gym, so it doesn't help, and I'm not necessarily in control of what's happening. Well, that's good. Sound is good. All right. Just listening to the theme song just makes me feel like I'm coming home from school and I'm about to watch a TV show. This is what it reminds me of, but it is totally 2000s. All right. Episode 1, Strategy X. I thought it was an interesting beginning with the football game. I was waiting to see one of the like young X-Men to be on the team, and obviously that wasn't the case. Also, the fact that they live in Bayville or they go to school in Bayville just also makes me think of like a very classic kids 2000s show town, and it makes me think of like Bayside from Saved by the Bell, but like totally one of those like town names. Yeah. And then I thought we haven't gone back really too much to this football player, the quarterback, but he had an interesting exchange with Jean that she was keeping that picture for her personal collection. So clearly not like in a relationship with Scott just yet. And we haven't seen more of that really too much of that interaction yet. So I'm waiting to see if that happens further into the season or if they just like totally abandoned it. Bayville is a real place. I would imagine that it is. Duncan. Yes, Duncan. That is correct, Polly. I know we've seen him a few more times in episodes, but there hasn't necessarily been anything like romantic relationship chemistry between them, really. Let's see. Oh, it's on Long Island. There is a Bayville in New Jersey too, which is where I'm from. Not Bayville, but New Jersey. And there is a Bayville there. Again, kind of close to Long Island, I guess, like across the water. um anyway, I made a post about this the other day, but like obviously we get that introduction to Scott. He tries to help out Toad, who's pickpocketing people from the stands. And then of course the quarterback Duncan is like, I'm gonna go pick on these guys and stop them from doing whatever. Not even stop them, but it was just like it was interesting that like the football coach was like, yeah, sure, go for it. Have some fun. Just come back in time, whatever. And then obviously Cyclops accidentally lets loose his powers and blows up a propane tank, which obviously there's an explosion. Meanwhile, in the aftermath, Professor X shows up in his car and uses his powers to redirect the police chief or whoever seems to be in charge of like what he thinks was going on. He's like, "Oh yeah, there just must have been a leak and it exploded." And I made that post yesterday and some people are like I made a post about uh like Charles doesn't agree with Magneto and his ways, but he's totally okay using his powers to protect his kids, which I understand, right? Like that makes sense. But like people were like, obviously murder is not the same as covering up an explosion. And while yes, it is not the same. And I don't think murdering a whole bunch of people is the right way to go, like Magneto would do, but like Charles is still crossing the line. Like he's not a good guy. Like he thinks he's good, but like to his benefit, right? And I know Polly, you had some good thoughts on the post yesterday. I forget exactly what you said, but it was like when it's convenient for him is when it's okay to do those things. Man, the bit rate, the stream bit rate is not very good, but I appreciate everyone hanging on here. Rules for thee, but not for me. Exactly. And people were arguing with me and being like, you clearly can't see the line between hiding an explosion and murder. And I'm like, yes, that's not really the point, is that I'm trying to make. The point here is that while Charles has been quote unquote designated as a good guy, it only works for him when it's time to work for him. Let's go back here. The high school thing. Polly probably won't see them making out or anything, but in my opinion, the chemistry is right away there between Scott and Jean. Oh, totally. Totally is. There's a point in episode 2 I made a note. I think Kitty was talking about how cute Scott is when they're on the jet and she's talking to Jean and Jean is like, "Oh, you're not wrong about that." DMV, I didn't even know that. Jean is school photographer and we never see her take photos again. Polly, also, I remember on some podcasts, I think some of the creators said they modeled Jean on Cordelia from Buffy, except she's not mean, but visually she kind of looks like her and it's adorable. I've never seen Buffy, just like random parts. I've never like watched it religiously, but you're not wrong. Like I can see that vibe. Jean is like that girl. She's everywhere, a football star, dating the quarterback, straight A student, yearbook editor. Yes, that is her. That is to the T who Jean is, Polly. Maurice, look, principles are more suggestions than rules. Exactly. Super J, what's going on? Glad you can make it. Yeah, Charles is protecting, quote unquote, the kids. And not to get too far ahead, DMV says, but the divide between Charles and Magneto of mutants hiding or being public becomes a big deal later on. Mo, that's funny that it's what if Xavier was like, fuck teaching teenagers what I look like? Next watch for me is Buffy. Oh, Polly, stop giving me stuff to watch. Okay, next note that I have here. Obviously, I already have mentioned this, is like we get introduced to Toad. Also to go back, of course, like why out of all the people, why are they making Storm drive Professor X around? Like, come on. Come on. We had to have gotten we could get someone else to drive him around. Hell, he could even have with all of his tech that he has, he just doesn't have like a remote car, like and a remote car that he can just like turn on and can just drive around himself. Like, like what the hell? Yes, driving Mr. Daisy. Exactly. That's exactly what I thought, Bo. Just like that. Oh my gosh. Like what? Like out of all the things, like really? We're gonna have Storm drive him around? That's like the worst decision you can make. uh I know Polly is a big Buffy fan. Yes. And I can tell the things like when we were talking about that famous like dance scene on the camera between Rogue and Kitty, like I've seen that dancing scene from Buffy. Like obviously that was like frame for frame almost the same. Oh, Mo, that's good. It's so bad that even Scott can see the optics are bad. And Polly, Storm is like his butler, which is terrible. It's so bad. Like, come on, context, people. But obviously, this is we our main thought or main thing in this is like we're getting introduced to a lot of things. We get introduced to Cerebro, the training room, and then obviously we get Kurt, Nightcrawler, comes in. Um, and it was good. I love how Kurt is. He's fun and playful. Just goes with the flow. Yeah, Mo, it's exactly that. And you which I think has been pretty good. I know like people a lot gave Scott a lot of shit from the animated series. Like he's just like this cop essentially, but like you can tell like they're painting Cyclops in a good picture here, and it's not in a bad way, but like they are clearly showing how good of a leader he is, which I kind of actually like. Storm isn't a mammy, damn it. Yeah. Yeah, I haven't seen too much more, but she does seem to do a lot of like chores. But like, yeah, this doesn't make sense. You said this yesterday too in Polly in the threads. You were like, Charles is over here bossing around Omega level mutants, and meanwhile they shouldn't be taking crap from him, basically. Mo, the facts of life, but with mutants. So true. So true. And then in the only other thing that is like major that I remember in my notes too is like we obviously get we're showing kind of like the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants at the school, and the principal is Principal Darkholm, who obviously happens to be Mystique, and she's kind of helping Magneto form their group in the school. Scott is still in school, but this little thing is always here. Sure, he's going to replace her as the butler. Yeah. But other than that, my only other like major thought at some point, Kurt ends up getting trapped into the danger room by accident. And so the danger room just goes on like high alert and starts like shooting at them. Everyone goes in for like to stop it. And Cyclops is just over here destroying the hell out of everything. And that was, I'm like, what? They're just like ruining all this stuff. That's all it is. They're just ruining it all. We also got our introduction to our Wolverine for a hot second, and that was about it. We get our Easter egg of like Professor X always saying, "It's good to see you, old friend." But yeah, like I said in your comments, yeah, they are. They're like the bad kids smoking somewhere behind the bleachers. So true. All right, episode 2, the X Impulse starts. This is basically all about Kitty Pryde. It starts with her like obviously transforming through her bed through a dream basically, and her parents are concerned. But anyway, the next thing though, the next like opening scene, Nightcrawler is like walking outside of school. It looks like it's fall, and they have like this like very 2000s music playing. It really does sound like a Disney Channel original, Mo. Like this is exactly what it seems like. But like Nightcrawler is like outside, and the only vibe that I get is literally Gilmore Girls. I'm like, this is the Gilmore Girls right now. This is what it is. I mean, we're like in New England. It's fall, small little town. It's just great. Kitty's episode was good. Polly. Also note how she gets that bad boy, good girl storyline. Love that so much. She does. Yeah. It very is much like a WB teen drama. It is pretty much like a Disney show. There is one when Professor X brings clearly they're at school, right? Like Scott and Nightcrawler are at school. Professor X is going to go get Kitty and like try to convince her parents to let her come to the institute. And he's taking the jet and he's bringing Jean. And I'm sitting here going, shouldn't Jean be in school? Maybe we could take Storm. I don't know. Why are we taking Jean all of a sudden? Anyway, Professor X just pulls the strings and is just like, don't worry about it. And then we get at one point, this is probably my favorite part because it's just so ridiculous. It's probably a good minute long. Wolverine is like cleaning his bike or doing maintenance on his motorcycle. And then out of nowhere, he just like smells the air and he goes, Sabretooth. And then there's like a whole 25-second montage of him getting suited up in his suit. And then he gets on his bike and rides out. Meanwhile, Sabretooth is riding his motorcycle somewhere around the New York area. And you see him, he's just close up on his mouth. And he goes, Wolverine. I'm just like, why do we take a whole minute for this? I don't disagree, DMV. Like, you got to have a superhero suit up scene. But I was just like, man, this is like classic 2000s. Well, later, so Scott and Nightcrawler follow Wolverine to see why he's like in such a hurry somewhere. Of course, in like Scott's little Porsche. And they get there. Wolverine, you see him on the top of a parking garage now, just standing there, like waiting in his suit. And then out of nowhere, you hear this other motorcycle, and it comes from like another rooftop flying across right at Wolverine. And I'm like, this is so ridiculous, but it's so good. It's so good. Wolverine is the action hero daddy of the show. I like the take on Wolverine in that he's like the big brother of the whole institute for everyone and not necessarily on the same level as the X-Men. Obviously, he's on the same level as like Storm, but kind of like I don't know what word I'm looking for. Like role model, leader, influencer is not the right word, but I think you know what I'm talking about. But I like how he's not like the same age as them. I think that's a good take. What does that make Xavier though? Yeah, the same. He's just like there. He's the one with quote unquote all the money to make this happen, essentially. Bossing everyone around, unfortunately. I'm assuming DMV that you're talking about Wolverine teaches them karate in a later episode, which I think I got to. I'm not 100% sure. I don't think Professor X is teaching anyone karate. But the other person we get introduced to in this episode at Kitty Pryde's school is Avalanche. And at first they didn't say who he was, and I thought it was going to be Richter. Now I don't know all their backgrounds, but based off of the powers that he was showing, I was like, "Oh, this is Richter," and I was wrong. But of course, we get Mystique and she also meets Avalanche and says, "You know what? I think you should come to this school too." Like, wouldn't someone also think like, wouldn't Kitty think it's weird that he's not at the uh, Xavier Institute, but also is now going to the same school as you, like halfway across the country in New York? Like, seems a little weird to me. Wouldn't you think? Mental ninjutsu, nice. How deep into the bench does the show go? That's a good question, Mo. I'm not entirely sure. Yeah. I haven't gotten that far. Ultimately, I've only watched like 8 or 9 episodes so far, and again, I went back to watch these to, like, write some more notes. But clearly people don't wanna give spoil I appreciate that, Polly. Um, let's see. That's really most of episode 2. We get, like, that's basically it. That's most of episode 2. Oh, that's pretty cool, DMV. I actually got to interview the character designer, Stephen E. Gordon, and I asked him if he based Avalanche on Richter, and he said no, it wasn't intentional. So is Avalanche a new character based off of the show, or was he the character designer in the comics? Okay. Yeah. These are the things I don't know. Very similar power set. Not that that doesn't happen, but okay. Good to know. Different character. I before I found out who he was, I thought it was Richter before they like said his name, and then Mystique comes in and calls him Avalanche. Episode 3, another good one, all about Rogue. I like how they call her the Rogue. Rogue. Professor X and everyone's like, the Rogue has run away. The original character to this show is X-23. Oh, I didn't know that, Polly. Thank you. That's cool. But episode 3, Rogue Recruit, we obviously get our introduction to Rogue. Her accent is interesting. I will say that. Her accent is interesting. Obviously, they're making her go with the goth look. Nothing wrong with it. Also, a different take, but it's not bad. Yeah, pretty much, Polly. You're not wrong. They initially addressed her as the Rogue mutant, and I think they just called her the Rogue, which was just interesting. Yeah, then she adopts the name. Spike is also original to the show. See, all these things I didn't know. I don't dislike her look. It's just different from what we're normally, excuse me, used to seeing. And I think it's good. I don't mind it at all. But it's definitely interesting. We get a lot of like, if you didn't know who Rogue already was, um, we learn a lot about her sort of background and origin, right? Like she touches the boy at the dance accidentally, and we see that she absorbs his memories and powers. And obviously, she doesn't know what's going on. And then obviously, she's been living with Irene, who, as we all know, Mystique's longtime lover. And Mystique sent Rogue there to be with Irene to kind of like hide up all of this stuff, right? Um, we even get another Easter egg at some point when Kurt shows up and is well, we get the Easter egg that when Mystique goes to Mississippi and is with Irene, Irene's like, you can't do that to your, and then Mystique cuts her off, basically hinting at the point that if you don't know that Mystique is Rogue's mom. And then there's another Easter egg of whatchamacallit. Kurt shows up at one point with Rogue, and she's like, or maybe it might be in a different. It's in the next episode, but basically shows up and she says like it's like he's an annoying little brother, which, as we know, he is. Let's go back in the chat here. Spike is an underrated character. Never really made it to the comics or took off like X-23. Yeah, I didn't know he wasn't really in the comics and just was here. But I haven't seen him in the comics. Also, haven't read a ton. But he's not bad. I don't mind him so far. I've only seen him in a few episodes. Yeah, Polly. It's a cool take on her. We're talking about Rogue because that's probably how she'd be in school before X-Men, and naturally in the 2000s, she definitely. You're totally right. You're not wrong on this whatsoever. I agree, DMV. I like Alexis. What's going on? Getting used to evolution is so hard. It's not bad though. I don't mind it. It's just way different than 97. DMV, I like that too. I like that the show subtly included Mystique and Destiny's relationship. Yeah, they never spell it out, but they're Rogue's parents, and that's just that. Exactly. Kenny, it's all good. We might jog your memory a little bit. We are on episode 3 where we learn who Rogue is, or like get her introduction. The other interesting part in all of this is we see that Kurt definitely has a thing for Kitty, but Kitty is like kind of freaked out by Kurt. And again, I said it not too long ago, but we see Kitty talk to Jean about how cute Scott is. And then Jean's like, oh, yeah, you're right. So that is like kind of like maybe sparking Jean and Scott's relationship. Spike was for sure my favorite character. We're going to talk about him in a couple more episodes, in a couple more minutes here. He shows up initially in episode 5. Do you like Rogue's goth look? I don't mind it. If you're asking me, DMV, I think it makes sense, and I don't mind it at all. It's totally fine. Yeah, the 2000s of it all is cool to see, right, Alexis? Music, clothing, all of it. Yeah, I agree, Polly. It's time for him to rewatch some of these. Next one's only going to be 4 episodes we're going to do. So, where are we? Episode 3. My biggest thing too is like, here's the question we never really get into. This is just logistics and me being just like picky and just like pointing out things that just don't make sense. But like Mystique is bringing all these kids to this school, especially from far away now, right? Where we've got Avalanche from like the outer Chicago area. We've now have Rogue from somewhere in Mississippi. And they're not initially staying at the Xavier Institute. Where the hell are they staying? Where are they staying at? Oh, I'll find out. Okay, Polly. I did not know that. I'm just like, where are these kids staying at? That they're just like, oh yeah, just come up to New York. Yeah, next episode we might as well go there, DMV, right? The Blob, Mutant Crush is episode 4. Basically all about the Blob. We get introduced. He's from Texas. The one thing that doesn't make sense to me is like he performs a feat of like super strength at like a rodeo, I'll call it. And then he's like celebrating at the end and like he falls off of whatever, I think the truck beds that he was standing on. And everyone starts laughing at him and then he doesn't like that and he gets angry, all that stuff, right? Like I don't think that's how a normal crowd would react unless they're really like picking on people at Texas. But I don't think that's how a crowd would react. They'd be like, "Oh, he just fell. I hope he's okay." Not laugh at him. But obviously, again, Mystique shows up and is like, "I think you can have a better place in New York with me." Again, bringing this on. My other really weird random thought was like, isn't anyone like think it's weird that this principal from somewhere in New York Not that it matters because she's, like, clearly running the show, right? But, like, isn't anyone being like this principal is, like, traveling a lot, and, they just keep bringing these kids back to this school. Does anyone think that's weird? Like, no one's, like, catching on to this, like, principal who's traveling all the time? Like, that just doesn't happen. You're not wrong, Polly. They definitely been pulling out their iPhones. Kenny, I feel like I remember the X-Men being a part of Xavier's Institute, but going to a high school in town. That is exactly correct, Kenny. So they're part of the institute. They're living there. They're doing all this stuff, but they go to what is the town is Bayville. Um, and they kind of just like miss school, go to school, seems like almost whenever they want. Maurice. So this was like a Degrassi school for gifted youngsters. I guess so. I never watched Degrassi. Polly says yes. DMV. It was very weird how she cornered him in private. Yes, totally. Like you just came out of nowhere and you're like, you know what? I think you want to get out of this town? I got a place for you. Come with me. Wednesday. Yeah, kind of is like Wednesday. And it's okay you keep comparing this to things, Mo. Totally fine. It is kind of like Wednesday. And Polly, you're not wrong. It's Mystique. She makes time. Yes. But I'm just like looking from the outside. She probably doesn't have other friends anyway, but like, isn't anyone being like, oh, what did you do? Oh, I just traveled. You know, she's probably lying. It's totally fine. Again, I'm just like bringing things up. Yeah. That's the other thought, right? The blob apparently doesn't have parents. You're not wrong, Mo. They're clearly, I mean, there's a formula. They found something that works in Hollywood. They're just going to keep doing it. I'm of the firm belief, and Kenny, you can probably talk about this. You watch a lot of movies, way more than I do, but there's really no new ideas in Hollywood. Things are just recycled over and over again. It's just, can you put a decent take on it? Polly 90210 from you. I like that. I like that comparison. Or literally like Buffy. Um, I think the biggest thing here, I think the other funny thing at one point in this is 90210 is for mutants is such a millennial reference. Definitely is. Obviously the blob starts to fall in love with Jean because she is nice to him and helps him out. Obviously, she's doing some trying to recruit a little bit for the Xavier Institute. Obviously, that doesn't work out so well because the blob falls in love with her, corners her, and then steals her, kidnaps her, and forces her to somewhat go out on a date. And I was like, this is a lesson to all men that this is not how this works. This is your lesson to not basically be this way. We don't kidnap women. If they say they don't want to go on a date with you, just accept the fact. You can try again, but don't kidnap them. Do not kidnap them and force them on a date. Let's see. DMV. I like that this version of X-Men was more about the school and made allegories to school integration and civil rights. And Kenny, yeah, you agree. There's basically incredibly new ways, old concepts. Exactly. The Brotherhood were totally introduced as a bunch of incels. Yeah, like Toad's super weird. Um, the Blob is also super weird. Yeah, it's kind of weird. Polly. Also, they did take Buffy's main premise, take the usual high school troubles for teens and turn them into demonic slash superhero metaphors. I really like New Mutants and Academy X being more school oriented. Yeah, also, Lance was very aggressive with Kitty. Going back to Kitty's episode, he was like, you know what? You're going to help me. I'm going to be your mentor, and you're going to help me steal these test things, these test answers, and then we're just going to do some other stuff. He also like threw a bunch of books down at Kitty's dad. It's like, come on, man. We got some serious problems. Some of the one of my other favorite parts of episode 4 as I'm like looking back here. Kitty and Kurt are now getting closer after like Kurt was initially hurt in episode 3 when Rogue took his powers for a hot second. Kitty was kind of very concerned, and now she's starting to warm up to Kurt, which Kurt is liking, right? But one of my favorite parts in this, at one point, Rogue goes to help rescue Jean with the rest of the X-Men. And she's like, "Didn't Mystique tell you what my powers are?" And she's like, "My power is your power, and I can have more than one." I just thought it was hilarious. I don't know why I thought it was funny. And then he was like, "You can't do that. I'm the Blob." And she goes, "No, you're just garbage that wanted a date, and I'm taking you out." I was like, these are some good lines. But that was essentially most of my notes on episode 4. Um, Very interesting. My only other note was Rogue and Scott get paired up for this English class. They're like working on a play. They're saying lines, and of course, I was just like, this is like just so American here. Of the English teacher is, of course, someone with a very condescending British accent. I was like, yeah, of course it is. Very, very Americanized way to make an English teacher, especially who's teaching like Shakespeare or something, do. I was like, yeah, that's it. DMV, the fight scene was so great. It was a good fight scene with the Blob and everyone there. It's just so ridiculous. Some really good lines. All English teachers are guys. Watch Buffy. Polly, Polly. You're killing me with the shows, Polly. All right. And then the last episode here, part of this like live stream that we're talking about, Speed and Spike. Now we're at a basketball game. We get introduced sort of to we don't really know who they are just yet, but Evan Daniels, Storm's nephew, who is Spike, and then Speed is Pietro. One, the slow motion sequence where Evan scores the game winner, super slow motion. It was like really drawn out. Again, very like 2000s-esque slow motion sequence here. Just ridiculous. And then when he won and he falls back, his spikes come out. He tears up the court. Apparently, the only person to see his spikes is Aurora, who's there watching him. And they also like he tears up the court, which also apparently no one else noticed or became concerned with. Only Storm saw all of this. Yes, right there, DMV. I thought the same thing, right? We got a white kid. So going into this episode more, Quicksilver is like stealing shit from people's lockers because he's got nothing better to do. And Evan goes to stop him. Pietro is able to leave, and Evan is obviously framed for the crime and goes to jail. And I'm like, man, again, just a black character was introduced, and now he's been framed for a crime and arrested. And like, this made me think about this later. So one, a couple of questions, just like overall logic questions in general. Why there was no other inkling that this was happening at night? Someone stealing stuff from the lockers. But apparently Evan thought it was, and he was just going to go there and stay there all night and wait for someone to steal something. Like, you didn't think it could happen during school or right after school. You thought it was definitely occurring in the middle of the night. I'm like, what if your plan was wrong and you just sat there all night? 2, later in the episode, after they kind of have another meeting with Pietro and they stop him and they're like, oh, he's like, you're never going to be able to frame me or prove that I stole all that stuff. And Evan tape recorded it and of him saying that he's the one that did it. And I go, we don't have cameras at schools in the 2000s. They could easily just done that. And again, they didn't even like think to do that for Evan. They were just like, no, this kid did it. We're going to arrest you and put you in jail. So I'm just like, again, just some logic things for me. I'm just like, I get it. It's a show. It's totally fine. But I'm also like, what? Is no one thinking? You didn't have cameras, Polly? We totally had cameras in school. The more I like think about schools, and I feel like the more I didn't go to a fancy school, that's for sure. um, the more I like think about school, like I see all of these shows, and this is probably just like for entertainment, right? But like it seems like a lot of schools on TV have a lot of just like give and take. Like you can go to school, go walk around a little bit if you have a free period. Never in my life did I have a free period. If you weren't like in a classroom or like a study hall, you were not to be like roaming the hallways. You weren't going outside by yourself. Like you were in school. You were not going outside unless you were with like gym class. So I'm like, where are these schools at that people are just like walking around freely, going outside? Just like, what? This is not the school that I'm going to. And I want to know where these schools are. That's exactly what the more like looking back now, Polly, it is basically like it's like going to jail. Like you're there, you're going from class to class. You have this much minutes to get from class to class because classes start on time. And you're not just like freely leaving. You're not doing any of that stuff. And I'm like, man, I kind of went to like jail, basically. Going back. Mo, security cameras are all over the place now. I don't remember how many were around back then, though. Off topic, security cameras not existing in futuristic sci-fi pisses me off. We have them all over the place, but somehow they don't exist in the 28th century. What I want to know, we're not even talking about the future. We're talking about right now. Why are all security cameras like we have some of the best camera technology we've ever had? Why is camera technology at like banks and stores so bad? So bad. Like can you tell me who this person is? And everyone's like, I can't really tell who that person is because the picture's so grainy and not very good. Like, why are security cameras not up to date with technology? They're being cheap. You're not wrong. Security cameras would have resolved a lot of Star Trek TNG issues. Uh, and DMV, that's why they call it the school to prison pipeline. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. Also, I have I didn't think about this the first time when I watched episode 5, but as I rewatched episode 5, Evan has an interesting outfit that he normally wears. His boxers are out a little bit. I'm totally okay with that. It's fine. But his boxers are out and he's got his shirt tucked into his boxers. What are we doing, Evan? What are we doing? And two, I realize like he skateboards a lot and that's totally fine. But you don't need to live your life with elbow pads on. Like what? We don't need to live our life with elbow pads on. Both Evan and Kurt do that. I haven't noticed Kurt. I'm gonna have to watch that the next time. Mo, they're not gonna have 4K IMAX cameras just to watch you withdraw $20 from the ATM. I understand that, but we need a little bit more, a little bit better. 24/7 elbow pads is wild. I'm just like, why? Why? But I did not notice Kurt is doing that too, DMV. I'm gonna have to look out for that in the next episode. Um Going back to like clearly Magneto has, I mean, we already know this, but Magneto's just given his kids terrible traits and lots of daddy issues. Like at one point, Mystique is like, "Oh, I think there's another kid we might be interested in." And Magneto shows up and he's like, "Oh, he is of particular interest to me." and I've been waiting to chat with him. I'm like, you haven't talked to your kid ever? He does clearly doesn't even know who you are. And I'm just like, come on, man. Blame CSI for making us think security cameras are high quality. Totally. Polly, I'm not against wearing the safety equipment and the safety pads, but all the time, you don't need. He's just like always prepared to go out on a skateboard, always. He's like, I ain't got time to put my elbow pads on. I'm just gonna leave them on all the time. I'm not surprised by terrible mutant parenting. I'm just like, just bringing up more facts. But I'm also like, he clearly passed on some like a-hole qualities because when they're about to do the like rival basketball game after Evan decides to go to Bayville, and they now have a last minute basketball game, which I don't think would ever happen in real life, against Evan's alma mater, which obviously Pietro is on that team. They show up and he's like, you know what? How's your stupid little town? You know what? I'm just going to wreck it. Just go through the town and wreck it. We're going to wreck all these cars. We're going to wreck these buildings. And I'm like, if you weren't, Magneto's kid, you probably wouldn't have these tendencies. Yes, Mo. They allow the mutants to be on the teams. That is correct. But they didn't really use their like Quicksilver when we saw him play in the beginning of the episode, he didn't really use his like speedy powers. Kenny, I had to look it up, but it is in fact Havoc who has the most annoyingly terrible super suit in that show. I haven't gotten to him yet, but yeah, it doesn't seem like most people know what mutants are just yet at this point in the show. And then the only other thing for me on this episode, like note wise, was at the end. Man, Mo, yeah, I'd be cheating all damn day. I think it would be very obvious at that point that you were special and you had a gift. But my only my only other point at the end of this episode, they're like at a pool party at the X mansion. Everyone's like in the pool. Professor X is literally sitting there at the end of the pool in his wheelchair. And he's got a Hawaiian shirt on, unbuttoned. And I'm just like, this is an interesting style. I don't know if we've ever seen Professor X like this. I just thought it was hilarious. I'd have that LeBron first step on everybody. Anyway, those are the first 5 episodes of season 1 of Evolution. Xavier was like, "Sun's out, guns out." So true. He sure was. But so far, I'm liking the show. It's fun. Obviously, way different than X-Men 97. I think it's fun. I like the takes again on Wolverine being again like a mentor to all the younger X-Men and not necessarily at the same age as everyone else. I feel like he's more of a mentor than Storm is. Although so far we've seen a little bit of her mentoring, but again, she's unfortunately doing like Xavier's dirty work, which again is come on. Why? Why are we doing this? They do yeah, they do. I heard it. DMV. They do a flamenco version of the X-Men, the animated series theme song, and I was like, there it is. There's the theme song. We're finally getting it. Mo, guys, is Xavier ever cool? Like ever? I wasn't sure it was that episode, but I waited. Yeah, there it was, Polly. Kenny, I hope you do a rewatch. They're pretty quick. They're like 20 minutes long, classic standard, like 2000s television show length. You can run through them relatively quickly. But yeah, you're going through 92. I've seen your threads, like you talking about stuff. So that's been fun to do. And yeah, these ones aren't too bad. We're only going to do so next week. We're not ending, but just because everyone's here, we're going to do 4 episodes for next week. So episodes 6 through 9. And while we're here, I'll make an announcement anyway. But like, we're probably going to do the live stream on Thursday. I've got a doctor's appointment on Wednesday that I made. Can't change it. So Not gonna be able to do the live stream on Wednesday. So probably be Thursday, and we're gonna do the next 4 episodes, 6 through 9. DMV. Xavier served in the Korean War, I think. Okay. Did not know that. There are also some more Easter eggs, and I want to know if you noticed them. Like from these past 5 episodes, Polly, or are you talking the next few? Xavier was cool in the 60s. Oh, Polly, you can't do Thursdays. I'm sorry. Oh, throughout the series. Okay. Yeah. I'm gonna keep looking through them. Now that I'm like actually like taking notes and not just like mindlessly watching as I'm like doing dishes, I will pay more attention. Mo, I need y'all to watch my Adventures with Superman. For real though. I would love to. I gotta find someone. I gotta find someone with a Max subscription. Polly, I'm set. You can't do Thursdays. Oh, Kenny, sorry to hear you're not feeling well today, bud. Hopefully you feel better soon. Glad you can make it. I appreciate that at least. Yeah, at some point, I would love to just like do these later at night when more people could be on. It just doesn't really work with my current like work life situation. Oh, quite possibly could do Friday. Yeah, possibly. Polly, you able to do Fridays? I mean, you were on one this past Friday. That was also just like impromptu on my end. Friday's perfect. All right, maybe we'll make it for next Friday then. I gotta look at my schedule. Life is like school is ending for my wife. She's a teacher, so she's just like gonna be home more, and like where I do all my stuff is like wide out in the open. I don't have a separate room, um, which also means my daughter will be home more. So we're gonna have to like figure this out. Slash, I got a lot of stuff coming up, but yeah. All right, Friday it is. It's been decided. We've got some people. We've already got people that want to do Friday. We're gonna do Friday instead of Thursday then, which is fine. That works. Um, Otherwise, we're gonna try to keep doing it on Wednesday, but we'll see. I do want to see the Superman show though, Mo. I would love to do that. Democracy in action. That's right, Polly. Um, I would love to see the Superman show though. I gotta find someone. It's on Max, right, Mo? I'm almost 100% positive it's on Max. I gotta find someone or Cartoon Network, like someone said, but I don't have cable. But um, I'm gonna have to find someone with a Max subscription. I think my mom has it. I might be able to log in on hers. Oh no, it's not. It's not too expensive. I haven't even looked. I haven't even looked into it. Everything that I have has ads, so it's annoying, but it is what it is. When it's, like $10 or $12 cheaper, I'm like, this is the option. I have like 3 Onslaught books left and I can't make time for them. I know you got everyone. You're going through Star Trek. I don't know if you're rewatching these, Polly, or not. Yeah, you're trying to do that. Oh, Disney Hulu Max bundle? I didn't know. I'm probably locked. So I got Disney and Hulu bundle this past Black Friday for like $3 a month. It was like $1 a month for Hulu, and then you could add on Disney for another $2. I was like, this is too good. I can't not do this deal. That's okay. I'm okay with ads. I'm gonna keep an eye out. I'm probably locked in on this one for however long. There it is. See, Mo, I saw that happen. I was like, I got to sign up for this. This is too good. $3 a month. I can't pass that up. You had to upgrade when X-Men 97 came out just because you didn't want ads, DMV? Or was there like a reason? Polly, I watch Star Trek when I work and eat, but then there's homework and work, and I bought a game. So yeah, yeah, Polly, you got a lot of stuff happening. That's okay though. I'm right there with you, just with other things. Oh, yeah. As I was, like, going through and watching 97, especially multiple times of episodes, I'm like, "Ugh, we have another ad?" Anything that's new, they definitely put way more ads in. Like, 92, you're lucky if you have 1 ad, like, in the middle, which isn't bad. But anything new, it's like, "Son of a gun." They're just, like, throwing ads in everywhere. That makes sense, Mo. If you're on Comcast, you're gonna do the Peacock, Apple TV, Netflix deal. Yeah. Oh, yeah, Polly. There are ads. There are plenty of ads. I have the ads Hulu Disney Plus package. Yeah. On the ad supported tier. You can pay more to not have any ads. Like I said, everything I do has ads, so I'll live with it. When you have when it's like a significant price hike for multiple streaming services at once, I'm like, I'll suffer through the ads. Yeah. Totally, Mo. They're totally like, it's like an extra 10 to $12 or more a month, and that adds up quickly. And I'm like, "Nah, I'll just watch ads. It's fine. It's not terrible." It is the weirdest and worst though, like during the middle of a movie. Mainly because you're like programmed, I think, to not in the middle of a movie, especially for one like you've seen before. And like as I'm watching, I'm like, okay, an ad. And I go, oh yeah, ad. We have to do this. But it's fine. Yeah. The year subscription is totally the way to go too. Anytime you can go year subscription, that's the way to go. I have learned though too over time, if you can do some of these subscription things around Black Friday, even if you have to like pay ahead, like even if you're already in and you can move to like say monthly to yearly, because there's always that deal happening, it's usually the best time to do it is right around Black Friday. Um, it's to me just seems to make the most sense because they always have a deal happening. And even if you have to pay up front, usually yearly, end up saving money. It's usually like 2 months worth typically, but it's worth it. Anyone have any other thoughts on the first 5 episodes from X-Men Evolution or anything else really for that matter? We could talk about whatever the heck we want now. Doesn't matter. Mo, you're not wrong, bro. It's getting expensive out here trying to keep up with all the stuff. It's getting expensive in general. It's like 2 It's like it's like millions of dollars to live these days, just like normally. DMV, I like the intro to Scott. I really like the take on Scott. They're definitely showing the um again like how he's a leader and like how he has leadership qualities basically. They fooled me into liking Scott with this show. Yeah. Taking his glasses off to defend Toad. Totally, right? Like I watched it before I knew all of his dirty deeds. Yeah. There are other things that make Scott not so great of a character, but the show definitely paints him in a good light. And I like that, right? Like I like that he's a good leader. And I think I talked about this before, but like literally I feel like Scott is or could be considered one of the best like tacticians in terms of like I don't want to say warfare, that's like the wrong word, but like when it comes to fighting, he could literally be one of the best he could be considered one of the best tacticians in all of like the Marvel universe. I'd say he'd be up there with like Captain America. Yeah, a good leader and a big brother figure to the other kids. It's interesting how it's almost like again, Xavier is like pawning off, and I get it, like trying to convince other kids to come to the school. Of course, using the other kids that are students there would probably be way better and an easier sell to the kids that they're trying to sell to for them to come there because, well, they're hearing it from kids and not just like the person who runs it, right? So it's like it's always just interesting how he's like getting them to do the selling of the school um, to everyone, which again makes sense, but it's always like they're the ones that are doing it. But it obviously is an easier sell coming from your peer versus again an older person. What was I have that question in the first episode when Toad goes to see Mystique. She doesn't turn into Mystique at first. She turns into some sort of like monster. Is that like something specific from the comics of like who she was imitating? Um, Anyone have any insight on that? Because I don't know. I have no idea. You're not wrong though, Polly. Also helps them build a connection and friendship later on when they have to share a room. So true. But yeah, I don't know who or what that no, it was just weird. Good to know, DMV. I didn't know if it was like anything specific or something we would see later. I'm just like, I don't because it hasn't shown up again. And I'm like, why? Like a general scary monster. Okay, that's fine. I just didn't know if it was like something else from the comics that I wasn't aware of that maybe we'll see again. Um, but yeah, it was just Mystique being weird. Okay. Polly, which is what I both loved and hated the first time I watched. I dreamed about going to that school and living in that mansion, but then living with other students, no thank you. I have a sister. Yeah. Okay. That makes sense, Polly. I'm sure it's a way to show Mystique's approach with a stick as opposed to Charles with a carrot. That's fair. Although this show did upgrade Mystique's powers from the comics. Okay. That's good to know too. Yeah, I didn't know. Because we never saw that monster again. I'm just like, what? What was that thing? And again, on my rewatch again, I go, I wonder if that has any significance. Clearly not. Just a weird, scary monster. Pay attention to how often she turns into animals going forward. Okay. I will keep an eye on that. I will definitely keep an eye on that. The other thing that is always interesting to me, again, this is like TV show, entertainment kind of stuff where all of these like kids in these shows and TV always seem to be very naturally gifted at athletics, movement, whatever it might be, right? And I'm always like, how do these kids just so good at this? Like in episode 5, Spike Evan leaves his house, just like hops out of a second story window right onto his skateboard, grinds down the handrail, and then skateboards away. And then in a later episode that we'll talk about next week, is they go on like a school trip um, that gets kind of ruined from the snowstorm, and then they're like racing on snowmobiles. And I'm like, how many times have you kids been on snowmobiles, let alone efficient enough that you can race them and quickly go through all this stuff? And again, I know it's entertainment, but like as a kid growing up and I'm seeing this, I'm always like, that's so cool. This is so unrealistic though. Oh, I didn't know there were Evolution comics, Polly. Some of them are prequels and some are connected to the ongoing series, but those comics are pretty good. Better than 97. Yeah, we talked about 97 last week in like issue 3. I'm not very I'm like, these 97 comics are not they're not doing it for me. Hey, if you wanna get out of class, you might as well get over your fear of heights and broken limbs. Totally true, Polly. I'm not doubting that right, Scott can polly the blackbird, so he could probably race. Totally true. But I'm also I just like Rogue though, and then the oblivious chaperone. So true. This show loved to do sports action scenes, yeah. They really did. Why would you even give snowmobiles to kids? So true. But I'm also like, again, like thinking back as a kid, I would see all this and I like be like, wow, that's what that's like. And then you get to that and you go, that's not how school was like at all. Yeah. Off-roading, snowmobiles, skateboarding, all that stuff. So 2000s though. So 2000s. Exactly, Polly, right there. You just said it. We were on the same wavelength. There was a skateboard in every late 90s, early 2000s show. Totally. Like if you weren't doing that, you weren't cool, basically. It's one of the first scenes in Buffy, and then we never see it again. They're like, we're just gonna include this to get this crowd in here and then totally forget about it. Overall, good show. I do want to see more of I feel like Storm has been downplayed. Excuse me. Storm has been downplayed. Um Wolverine has been good, interesting. Charles is Charles. I can't wait to see the other people we get introduced to. I'm excited. So that's where Extreme X-Men came from. That's unfortunate, Polly. Storm has her cool moments, but she's mostly an overpowered babysitter. Dang. What did everyone pick up this week, comic book wise? Anything good? I know Mo, you're not on the regular pickup game, which is totally fine. DMV or Poly, did you get anything good? I got the last issue of the Spider-Punk miniseries. Let's start a campaign to get a sequel series for this show. Probably a good time. What else did I get? Ultimate Spider-Man. I feel like Blood Hunt for me is just like too big of an event, and I'm like, I don't have the time for this right now. And then the last issue of Avengers Twilight. So I haven't read any of them yet, but that's what I picked up. Blood Hunt though is like what everyone's talking about. It is the major event right now. Oh, the main issue is only 5? I didn't know that. I just remember I saw that there were a ton of tie-ins DMV, and I'm like, I don't have the money or the time for this. I don't know much about it, Mo, but yeah, it seems like it's the big thing to make vampires a thing. I get the reason of tie-ins, Kenny, but like I don't even when I'm like as I've been going back and like Marvel Unlimited and reading some of like the Krakoa stuff, I don't even read the tie-ins from other things. I'm like, I don't have time for this. Let me just read my books that I want to read. Polly. Yeah, you'd expect that to be Avengers Twilight. I like the reference, Polly. Tie-ins just seem to be like I don't I see the point, but at the same time, I'm like, this is dumb. Why are we doing this? There's no reason. There's no reason to be doing this. Apparently, again, from what I've heard, Blood Hunt has been really good. And um, is this a continuation from or like tie into the Blade current Blade run by uh I can't remember who it is right now. Kenny, oh man, I feel so bad for you. The last time I bought a bunch of tie-ins was for the Bat Cat wedding and the Colossus Kitty Pride wedding, and I can't believe how much of a waste of time and money that was. And they break up the run for the solo books and team books, and then when you read the event, you have to pick up everything, and it's still chaotic. Yeah. Okay. Thanks, DMV. It ties into several recent Blade books, but you can dive right in if you want. Polly, I can't believe you fell for that twice. Oh, just rub it in, Polly. That's so nice of you. Blade has a teen daughter now. Wow. Okay. It's Ewing. Ewing's doing Blade, I believe, right? But I've heard good things about that too, which I haven't picked up. But I could probably get the first few issues on Marvel Unlimited. But yeah, I've heard good things about that. But yeah, I don't see the point of tie-ins. It's just like too much. Oh, Brian Hill. You're right. Brian Hill. Sorry. I thought it was Ewing, but I believe you're right. But I also didn't know Blood Hunt was only 5 issues. So now I might read it. I might just wait though until it either all comes out in a trade or just wait till it's on Marvel Unlimited. Kenny, oh my gosh. Those wedding arcs were actually happening at the same time. Both wedding issues came out the same day, and neither wedding actually happened in the wedding issue. Oh man. That's like classic comics. That is like classic comics. Of course the wedding didn't actually happen in the wedding. Of course. Why? Why would it? I almost like wanted to pick up the wedding of Mystique and Destiny today, but I was like, no, I'm gonna just have to hold. I will hold off. I will wait. But then with X-Men, I didn't want Gambit to get married of all people. Yeah. Yeah, I'm definitely learning. Good thing I'm glad. Luckily, I didn't buy it before. But yeah, I'll just avoid wedding issues. That does give Superman make him more interesting, Kenny. I didn't even know that. Clark and Lois uh, gave them a kid. Nice. Make sure the wedding happens first. I would be yeah. I'll just wait. I'll just wait and see that issue on Marvel Unlimited because it's yeah. Kenny. Yeah. I'm at the point now where I'm like, I gotta ask next week when I go because I feel like I'm like, what's on my pull list? Because I feel like I need to like trim stuff up a little bit. The whole like FOMO thing is real though. I'm just like, I don't want to miss out. Slash, there's also the like, you've already spent money and you've made it through this many comics, and you're just like, well, now I kind of need to know what happens. I like that idea, Polly. Best approach is to show up for a 10-year anniversary. That's not a bad idea. Like, depending on how this, like, Ultimate Spider-Man comic goes today, or whenever I read it this week, I'm like, I might drop Ultimate Spider-Man because Ultimate Black Panther and Ultimate X-Men are better and have been at this point. And then we're gonna have all these X books coming out. And I'm like, killing me. Killing me. Yeah, they really are, Polly. They're gonna make everyone broke. That's not a bad lineup, Kenny. Ultimate Black Panther, Ultimate Spider-Man, and Blood Hunt. Yeah. I feel like I have a lot of things dropping off. Like I did a lot of not Ultimate, limited series. So like Avengers Twilight's now over. The Spider-Punk one's gonna be over. What else? X-Men 97 is gonna be over soon. I don't even know if I want the last issue of X-Men 97 at this point. I'm just like, this is literally providing no extra anything. No extra anything of the X-Men 97 comic. And then Miss Marvel Mutant Menace also ends soon as well. That's the problem, Polly. You got to get it for the collection. I'm just like, do I? And then I'm also like, now I just need to know. It's like, I've read this many issues. It's only this many issues long. And I'm like, I kind of needed to know. Yeah. Or if you ever decide to sell them. Not even close to the same sauce as the show DMV. I just thought it was going to be a little bit deeper and give us like different stories again, like I talked about last week. And I'm just like, there is not, they're not giving us much else. It's literally not much else. I can see that happening, Kenny. Dropped out of X-Men right after House of X Powers 10. Yeah. There's way too many. As of right now, I'm planning on only to be getting the X-Men run and Uncanny X-Men. Part of me wants to get NYX, but again, I'm just like monies. Mo, how was Aman Vellani's run on Miss Marvel? It's been good. I think her first limited series was better. I think her first limited series was better. I forget what that one was. Just the New Mutant. Miss Marvel, the New Mutant. This one has been okay. This past issue was probably the best one out of the 3 that have been out so far. It's only 4. This third one was the best in my opinion. The first one was her just like dealing with the after fact of like everything that's happening. She's a new mutant and basically everyone hates her now, which is obviously somewhat relatively new for her. The second issue, she goes into fight Mojo. She gets transported to the Mojo verse. It almost is like, why? After reading the third issue, it's almost like, why did that happen? And I'm also not the biggest Mojo fan. It's kind of just like the same stuff over and over again. This third one was pretty good though. It has some dead X-Men in it. That's all I'll say. But I like her writing's not bad whatsoever. I like it. It's just I feel like they're only giving her so much. It definitely feels like you're reading like almost like reading a classic Miss Marvel, what would be a Miss Marvel fan fiction. That she would like be writing. And obviously we're getting that from Aman Vellani. It's crazy to me. It seems that the extreme mutant prejudice only ever shows up in the X books. Yeah, no, they have like it's pretty interesting. And I think it's because it's all tied in, right? It's just like all the stuff. Most of the X-Men are in hiding, but she's still kind of out in public. But all the X-Men are telling her to like just lay low, and doing what she does, especially in Jersey City. She can't but help herself. I agree, DMV. The X-Men comics would be so much more popular if they limited the amount of books. All right, folks. I know we're having a great time. I need to get going. I appreciate y'all this week. Next week, I'll talk about it on Threads, but we're going to look at episodes 6 through 9, and we're going to do it on Friday. I will think of a time, but it'll probably be somewhere around the same time this one was. But season 1, episodes 6 through 9, and we're probably going to aim it for next Friday, the 7th. Oh, 7th. Shoot, I'll check my schedule. And I will let everyone know. We will see. Okay. I appreciate y'all. Thank you all for coming, and I'll see you on Threads.